Come seeker, come traveler, come all humankind, online or in person, whomever you love.
Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Cheyenne, where we are building a community of refuge, where all have equal worth and are invited into spiritual exploration as a foundation for hope, compassionate service, and action.
This is a place where questions are encouraged, a place with room for all of who you are.
This is a place full of works in progress, a place for being human together.
Welcome. It's good to be here.
Settle in and exhale. This is a time for community.
Hello, I'm Gene Heater, a member of the board, and I'd like to welcome you to this church where we are on a shared journey to find meaning, connection, and community together. If you are new to us, please consider filling out a blue visitor card so that we can share information about our activities and events and help you find what nourishes your spirit in this community. You'll also find note cards in the pew for writing down joys and concerns to add to our pastoral prayer. We passed an additional labeled basket alongside the offering to gather these cards. Write your name or leave your joy or sorrow anonymously. You can also write "Do not share" if you have a concern or need to share with the minister, but do not want it spoken aloud in prayer. Another way we create connection and meaning in this community is through the activities and events that happen in our building and in the community beyond our walls. Let me tell you about a couple of our events which are happening soon. Religion is one way we make meaning of big questions about the world, how it came to be, why we are here, and what it all means. Join Reverend Elizabeth after service in the library for our monthly post-church discussion group where we contemplate the earth and our role in relation to it. We welcome you to the budget meeting with the board in the social hall after service. This is a great opportunity to understand how we fund ourselves and how our money is spent. This meeting will be approximately 1 hour starting at 11:30. Join others in our community as we come together to serve our friends at a Kamea dinner party on Tuesday, March 26th. Okay. Saturday the 23rd. Okay. Dinner is served at 6 p.m., so please arrive around 5:45 to prepare. The only requirements are a smile and closed-toed shoes. If you have any questions or you'd like to sign up, please contact Laurie McGill, either in person or at 307-630-4118. Now Marcy would like to talk to us about the service auction coming up in April.
Thank you, Jean. My name is Marcy Lindy, and I am on the Finance Committee and the Fundraising Committee. And those are very intertwined, and I would like to personally invite each and every one of you to the service auction, which is Saturday, April 6th at 5 p.m. In the lobby, I will have sign-up sheets if you would like to join us. It will be $15. However, children are free, and children will be downstairs and served a free pizza dinner. It's a great opportunity not only to support the church, but many of the items, and we would ask also that you maybe consider donating items, and they don't have to be things. They also can be an item of service. Maybe you would like to take a group up to the Botanic Gardens and walk around, and we can have sign-up sheets. I think some of the most Precious memories that I have of people in this church are going to do things. I went to a home and learned how to bake cookies with Andrea Heater. I'm going on uh, snowshoeing trips with the Stumps, going to a lovely dinner at Carol Jean's home. So I think it's a real nice opportunity to engage and connect with other people in the church. And it's also our major fundraiser for the year. I would also encourage you to go to the budget meetings after church today and see the reality of our finances. And again, I think it's a fun evening, so I would encourage all of you to come. And again, we will have sign-up sheets, and I will be out there helping you sign up if you would want to sign up electronically. It will be a fun time on April 6th at 5 to 8 with heavy appetizers and beverages. Thank you.
We gather in person and on Zoom each week. Here we gather our resources to sustain the work of this church and to share our abundance with community organizations, broadening the reach of our values. You can find the text to give number in your order of service, or use your Realm app for electronic giving, or your Share the Plate offerings and pledges may also be dropped in the baskets in a few moments as they pass. Our Share the Plate partner for the month of March is WyoFile. Let's welcome the words of Carol Jean Bongo to tell you a little about their work.
Good morning. During this spur of the moment here, so let's see what comes out of my mouth. Last couple weeks, we've had David Evans from the Board of Directors on WyoFile come and talk about WyoFile. And as a congregant and as a user of WyoFile, I thought I would share what I appreciate about the service. WyoFile is a nonprofit news organization that delivers fact-based news, mostly about Wyoming events and what's going on in the state. Legislation-wise, medically, all kinds of things. And I really appreciate opening my app and reading the articles that they have. The journalism is excellent, and the news articles are interesting, and they also offer an opinion page from both sides of the coin. So both liberal or Republican and Democratic, liberal and more right wing. So I really appreciate and feel appreciate WyoFile, and I feel confident that the news that I'm reading isn't influenced by dark money or, yeah. So I just thought I'd share a little bit about WyoFile. I'm really excited that it made the cut for Share the Plate this year. And please give generously in the basket and share the plate today. And you can also donate online if you really like what they do. Thank you.
down by sadness like a stone. We have yearned. We have sometimes felt so utterly alone. While we turn, we've been stricken by the wonder of it all. Stricken down. We have sometimes felt so faint we want to fall. Overcome, but all in all, I'd say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun? We have raised our fists in anger and we've tried. Work it out. That we need each other, we cannot deny. There's no doubt. Let us leave another dream in outer space. While we're turning, on this planet home that holds our human race. Still I'm learning, all in all. Say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun? Say this year in flight together has been a good one. What say we make one more circle, one more circle, one more circle around the sun.
Welcome to this common sacred space. Common because we are all welcome, sacred because here We transform the ordinary and attend to the profound. We carry with us regrets, doubts, fears, stories, laughter. May they inspire our worship. Above all, may we each meet what we need most to find on this day, in this common sacred space. So may we worship together. And for our opening hymn, I invite you to open your gray hymnals, rising in body or in spirit, to join in singing hymn number 360, Here We Have Gathered. If you'd like to help lead our hymn, you are always welcome to come up and be part of the singing. Circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who see here find a kindly word. May all who see here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered, all to celebrate days of our lifetime, matter, soul, and great. We of all ages, sages, infants all, infants and sages, sharing what we will. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Past battles, sorrows, and regret, let in the shadows, let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's name. Brightness can heal us as we give, sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
So our chalice lighting reading for today is adapted from the original chalice lighting, The Ember of Hope and Love Set Ablaze by Lisa Dage. As we light this sacred flame, let us remember that within its flickering dance lies more than mere warmth. It carries the whispers of dreams yet unspoken, the seeds of futures yet uncharted. This chalice, like an ember cradled in our hands, holds the promise of transformation. It is the vessel for our hopes, our yearnings, our unformed potential. We light it not only to dispel darkness, but to ignite the spark within us. The spark that says, what if? What if we dared to imagine beyond the known? What if we nurtured the fragile shoots of creativity, compassion, and justice? What if we believed that love, like a wildfire, could consume barriers and ignite bridges? In this sacred time of unfolding, let us honor the ember of hope and love set ablaze. May it guide us toward the uncharted, the unformed, the realms where miracles begin. May this flame remind us that within every flicker lies the power to shape our world. And now, if the young or young at heart would like to come and join us up on the chancel, we invite you to share in the leadership of speaking our covenant in unison before our time for all ages.
Hopefully we'll have a microphone for that. There we go. All right, let's start with love is the spirit of this church, and service its cause. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth, and to help others. All right, and would you like to bring Jenkin up so he can share with us in our time for all ages? Thank you so much. So, I know for a fact that Jenkin read a very interesting book just a few weeks, maybe a month ago. You all may have read this same book. It might have been a little longer ago. Do either of you remember the book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar? Anyone out there who've read this book? Yeah. So, what's it a book about? A very hungry caterpillar. So that caterpillar starts as a tiny egg, and he hatches, and then what does he do? He eats and eats and eats, and he turns into a very healthy, fat caterpillar. Lots of different kinds of foods that he's eating. And finally, at the end, once he's eaten all of that food, what does he do next? Well, he eats a leaf, and then, dangling off of that leaf, he sleeps in something called a chrysalis. You're very good at this. Yeah, so some kinds of caterpillars sleep in a chrysalis and some sleep in a cocoon. Either way, it's a very safe place for a caterpillar rest. And the Very Hungry Caterpillar is really focused on how many things that caterpillar eats. But what we're going to talk about today is what happens inside that chrysalis. So, when a chrysalis forms, it's like a hard coating, and it covers up the caterpillar's whole body and protects it, keeps it safe. And then, do you know what happens inside of that chrysalis? It turns into a butterfly, but before that, it turns into caterpillar soup. Every single piece, yeah, it's a funny thing. So every single piece of that caterpillar's body, all the little legs and the hairs on its back, every single bit of caterpillar, from its eyes all the way down to its tiny little caterpillar behind, turn into soup. They dissolve, they become goo. And that's so necessary every cell in that caterpillar's body just dissolving and spending time dreaming of the butterfly it's going to be, until a few of those cells go, I know what part I want to be, and they begin to form. And they get together with cells like themselves, and they form hearts, and heads, and antennae, and legs, and bright, beautiful wings. But in order to do that, they have to spend this mucky, goofy dreaming time first, where they're just soup. So, while I don't think any of us want to literally transform into goo, and be a little weird, sometimes caterpillar soup can be a really good metaphor for the way you feel when you need to grow and change. Like, have you ever learned something new in school, or maybe you felt a feeling that you hadn't felt so strongly before? You kind of just need to sit with that. Maybe you feel like you almost need to sleep extra because you're tired from learning. Maybe you need to try it and then leave it alone for a little while before you come back. You ever had learning like that? I'm hearing some yeses out here. Oh, with running. For me, it was with riding a bicycle. You need to try it a few times and then get off and kind of think about it. Yeah. This could be at work, it could be at school, it could be at home. But one of the big things that we sometimes forget is that caterpillar soup stage, what would happen if you said, nope, you need to change faster, and you just opened up that chrysalis? It would still be soup. Yeah. And that caterpillar would never get to become a beautiful butterfly. It would just be soup. Well, soup is delicious, but it's hard to be soup and be an alive creature. I think those are incompatible states. So in a lot of parts of the country, this time of the year, the time where the year is not quite sure whether it's winter still or springtime, and everything gets a little bit muddy, and the plants haven't grown yet, but something is happening under the earth. The little bits of green are starting to come up. Maybe there's a flower or two. Yeah. This is the time when the surface of the earth is a little bit like soup. That's why it's called mud season. It's dirt soup, just a little. And so, this is also a time where we celebrate the waiting time. In the Christian tradition, there's Lent happening. In the Islamic tradition, there's a month called Ramadan, where we focus on reconnecting to the divine. In so many traditions, springtime is a soup time. It's a time for waiting and thinking and getting ready. How many of you maybe have a spring cleaning ritual that you do? Or some other kind of thing that you do in the spring that kind of helps you awaken? You have a spring cleaning ritual?
No, I have dinner.
Oh, what's your ritual?
I rub mascara
That
on.
is an odd ritual. We should talk about that more in an RE class sometime.
It's called Holi in
Oh, so there is a color festival in India, yeah, that celebrates the coming of spring and the flowers, and it's kind of messy. When I lived in Guatemala, there was a thing called Pascua, which is Easter, but it was a little like Holy. You would get cascaras, little egg shells that you'd already taken the eggs out of, and you would fill them with colored flour. And then you'd have a flour fight. And you'd get to throw them at each other and they'd go poof. This is the messy celebration time of the year. And so, like our caterpillars in soup that are going to turn into butterflies, we are also taking soup time. We're getting ready for our growth as individuals, for growth as a community. And we are working together on those visions, on figuring out what our mission looks like as we work together. Right now, our mission is soup a little bit. We're going to come out of it with a vision. It's brilliant. So thank you all so much for being part of our Time for All Ages. We'd like to send Jenkin and yourselves back to your seats. We much appreciate it. Thank you. And now, let us take a breath as we move into that time in our community where we celebrate what is good, where we acknowledge the hard times as well. So join me in this spirit of prayer and meditation, spirit of life, spirit of love. As we gather each week, we hope to support each other, to be a comfort in hard times, to celebrate our joys, our excitement, to dwell together in the wonder and mystery of this magnificent and ever-changing life. And so we acknowledge joy in our community. For Lauren Danley, it is the 17th anniversary of blessing her new name, holding herself in honor and in joy. And this week, Meg Barhalmi's daughter, her youngest, has made the honor roll with straight A's for the last semester. And we celebrate the wonderful news of that achievement as well. We join Jed, our administrator, in joy that he is feeling healthy and having a blast at rehearsals for Hello Dolly. It's a nice change, he says, from last year. And we also acknowledge that there are places and things where the world is hard. Addie sends thoughts to the places that just had tornadoes, or this. It's a difficult time. We send our thoughts and prayers outward to Ukraine, where there is still conflict, where there is still fear. We send our thoughts to Israel and Palestine, knowing that this loss of life is an ongoing tragedy, that there are people in deep need. We hope that humanity, that compassion, that kindness will prevail. and we acknowledge the joy of new life, the little sounds among us, the little flowers peeking through the earth. But this is a growing time of the year. We give thanks for that ever-changing state of being and hold room as well in our hearts for the joys as yet unshared and the sorrows too tender to be spoken aloud. So may we find in this space the peace, comfort, and community which enfolds us and holds us each week. Amen. And blessed be.
Thank you, Erin. So appropriate for today. All right, our centering reading for today is called Indwelling by T.E. Brown. If thou couldst empty all thyself of self, like to a shell dishabited, then might he find thee on the ocean shelf and say, "This is not dead," and fill thee with himself instead. But thou art replete with very thou, and hast such shrewd activity that when he comes, he says, "This is enow unto itself. 'Twere better let it be. It is so small and full, there is no room for me."
Well, it's March. I'm 1 week back from a vacation, which for all of you who want to know was a delight. I need breaks and times away periodically. There's always a little nervousness when I leave. What might get slowed down, come to a halt, get lost in translation, or go off track. And more than that, I'm going to miss people, miss my work, feel left out by the time I return. And yet, with all of that, I need the time, that space outside of the weekly grind to reassemble my thoughts and re-inspire ministry. I need time where things can be muddy and unformed, like clay not ready to be sculpted yet. Time where I can read without immediately converting those words I absorb into lessons for worship and sermon quotes. Time where there's nothing to write on a deadline, nothing to report or make sure fits in a neat calendar box. And I don't think ministry is unique in that. This is a piece of healthy relationship to all kinds of work: healthcare, teaching, parenting, governance, policy writing, grant reporting, being in a relationship, being in leadership of congregational life. There are all kinds of ways of being human that do better when we take breaks now and again. If you're here at church, it might be because this is one of the places where you find that break with the everyday grind. Maybe you're a person who's trying to make sense of life and find a larger purpose for yourself, looking for a way through each day that makes you feel that you're part of something more purposeful than what you can understand alone. And perhaps, yeah, hey, it's exciting to be at church. Perhaps there have been times in your life where you felt connected to the universe in a deep way that you can barely find words to describe. Or maybe you're searching because you feel a great want for that kind of connection, that there's a space in your heart looking for that sense of greater scope. Maybe you feel just out of sight, that it's there, like the glimmer of a sunbeam you can't quite turn around quick enough to catch. For many of us, if you have a sense of something divine or greater, there are times and seasons where that's harder to feel, or where it seems too far away to warm you. And so, as we are here 4 years out from the disruptions of the COVID-19 pandemic, I've been thinking about that turbulence, the ways that our work, our school, our church, our everyday routines suddenly changed, maybe stopped for a time. And maybe you felt a bit like that caterpillar that we talked about, all soupy, mud-like, unset and unsettled. Perhaps you're finding that you are judging yourself now for not being more on your game or not feeling ready for life. That this last year or two, so many of us have gone, that was so long ago, 4 whole years. Why is everything still hard? For pastors, there's some evidence to back up. There's survey data about the ways we're feeling still and as yet unsettled and unmoored. Dr. Stephen Sandage, a researcher at Boston University, shared that in a recent study, 81% of ministers were exhibiting PTSD level symptoms. But this is not unique. We're not alone. Collectively, humanity went through a trauma together. It was a rending of our social fabric in 2020, and many people are still dealing with the aftermath, with the ongoing traumas. And so we need to talk about it, not say we just should be okay. Like soldiers coming back from World War I, things have happened and they are hard. And when we reach anniversaries of big dates, like the closing down of in-person church, the closing down of so many places of business, we can feel bubbling up all those feelings. When COVID happened, for many people, the shock was not the virus, but the realization that people had such different ideas about the value of our common humanity. That we suddenly realized that not everybody thought that every person was inherently worthy. That many of our systems, our friends, valued people in relation to their functionality, their work product, their ability to be of convenience to one another. And many people behaved in ways we found frightening or difficult to understand. And instead of feeling surrounded by logical and caring folks, I felt surrounded by people who wanted a sense of normalcy, sometimes at the expense of safety. People who wanted to sit in a restaurant more than they wanted those restaurant workers to be healthy and whole. People who denied the reality of science around masking, or insisted that any imperfect usage rendered safety measures so completely ineffective it wasn't worth trying to do pretty well or sort of okay. And I need you to know it's reasonable to still be angry, upset, distraught. It's reasonable to have a whole range of reactions because COVID was a uniquely massive reminder to all of us that in fact life is unpredictable and outside of our control. And every one of us in the United States are humans who generally live in a social strata where a lot of things are within our control, in our personal lives, our schedules, our workplace choices, certainly not always, less so for some of you who are younger, for whom schedules and menus get given to you by adults in your lives. But overall, we usually get to live within the myth that our self-direction and our choices are ours, that we can have a pretty good life in the ways that we choose. And then the world came along and reminded us that this isn't so, that mortality is real and utterly outside of the realm of things that we get to choose. That's a traumatic thing to have your face shoved in. And in some ways, it's easiest to focus on the ways that other human beings failed us or didn't live up to our expectations, or systems, how the CDC came up short, how the government or legislatures made decisions too slowly or incorrectly or unsafely. But the truth that's harder to know, harder to be at peace with, is that we all, they all, every person involved in this is human. That all those who tried their best or who didn't try at all are human. And in a crisis, some flee, some freeze, some try to act like the crisis isn't happening and smooth the waters, and some do their very best and still can't fix it. That frenetic activity that's part of being a person. We can't fix what is a larger reality of mortality and being and spirit. 4 years, almost to the day, since churches closed down. My colleague Erin Stockwell Weisman was reminding me this past week that it was a sea change. And in trauma studies, there's something called anniversary reactions. Anniversary reactions can include reliving or re-experiencing events. It can include avoidance or negative changes to beliefs or feelings, feeling keyed up, hyperarousal, or hypervigilance. To feel right now like you're a bit of a soup that's been perhaps overboiled, a little spattered and messy. Might be true. And it's important to know that we can connect that back and that it's okay to take the space. Because the universe, the divine, all that is, moves in circles and spirals and rhythms and time, too great to be perceived in its whole arc until we are thousands of years in the future to look back and see where we came from. I went on vacation to see what has been in the world. I looked at Egyptian walls and temple carvings, thousands upon thousands of years old, Jordanian, Roman, and Nabatean ruins of cities and temples, and people all the world over for thousands of years have been experiencing crisis and renewal. And we too are part of this cycle. Thousands of years ago, a wonderful and thriving city was hit by an earthquake, and the people left and never returned. Hundreds of years ago, the Black Death swept across the northern Mediterranean region, and people left their houses and danced in the streets until they died. People are people. We see signs and portents. We do our best, and sometimes we cannot handle what is happening. And yet, we come back again and again to figure out where we've been, to learn from what has happened, and sometimes to be soup before beauty emerges. Looking at a 4,000-year-old temple, I wondered, did a Coptic Christian person draw this fresco across the face of an Egyptian temple, thinking, I bet in 1,300 years or so, someone is going to find this historically interesting? No. People make beauty, people become beautiful and do what they can to honor what is greater. Because now it matters. Because community right here matters. Because 1,300 years ago, for Coptic Christians, it mattered to worship in a beautiful space dedicated to their understanding of the divine. They didn't do it because the world was wonderfully settled and perfect. In fact, they were in an Egyptian temple because they were a persecuted minority at the time. In a world given to great and deadly floods, where plagues took the land now and then, they wrote epic stories, which we have come to know as the Bible. copied them across the Mediterranean and sent them by sea, knowing that people hundreds or thousands of miles away might have similar enough experiences of the world to find meaning and truth in those stories. We are always part of a larger story. It's the getting out of our way enough to find it that's hard. Each cell of a caterpillar is a potential butterfly. Each community of butterflies is a sea of beauty, ready to make of itself, year after year, new beauty. We have to take the time. We have to find our unformed selves and thoughts, and not say that we must open that shell prematurely. Because, as we remember from caterpillar soup earlier, if you open that shell up, being soup is not compatible with healthy human life. So let your brain and your heart have time and space in which to think and feel and be unformed when you need it. Not forever, but perhaps through the mud season. The ego-filled frenetic activity of doing can drive out the kinds of introspection and inspiration that we need. We don't need efficiency, but beauty and community creation. And so in the times when we feel so tempted to move quickly, I invite you instead to breathe, to let the sacred move through your consideration, open you to expansive thinking. For we will find a path, a way forward. We have the potential to gain wings and fly, to lift off with one another and become beauty. If we spend our time like the cells of the butterfly, letting ourselves dissolve into one another, to not be alone, even when we don't know where we fit yet, to be together and deepen relationship, so that when those forms begin to arrive, we have all the opportunities right there, ready for our participation. When you get excited, when you're one of those cells that knows it's ready to be the heart, to sense, to be wings, do that. And absorb and learn and find relationships and make friends. And let the purpose of church be community, finding our next form. And so, if you'll rise with me in body or in spirit, let us join in singing our closing hymn, 273, Immortal Invisible, as we honor our divine being. Immortal, invisible, God only wise, in light inaccessible. thy justice like mountains, I soaring above, thy clouds which are fountains of goodness and love. To all life thou givest, to great and to small, in all life thou livest, the true life of all. Alone we would render, and help us to see, 'tis only the splendor of light majesty.
Please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice flame and speak together the words in our order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry within our hearts until we are together again.
And so, as you go forth, I bless you to rest in your wibbliest jello-like way, to let yourself be unfinished, be works in progress, and let what is beyond and greater light the way toward them. Know that perfect, the unchanging, cannot be your life, that you must move with the flow of time. So stay alive, stay growing and muddy and messy and soupy and full of hope. May it be so, and blessed be.